Hello, everybody. This is Sean once again. Hey, I appreciate those of you that are popping on to watch this. Hey, I've got a topic that I want to talk about today, and I'm going to be honest with you. I need you to indulge me here because this is when I was out today, made my trip up to the Folds of Honor, and I found myself on two different occasions coming up to four-way stops. And folks, I've got to tell you. Nothing to me is more frustrating than bad drivers that don't understand the law or the rules of the road. And I'm certainly not perfect by any stretch, right? But the one in particular that particularly drives me bonkers is the four-way stop sign. So if you guys are like me, if down in the comments section, type a 1 if the four-way stop sign just absolutely gets under your skin. Now, I will tell you that as I thought about the four-way stop sign, I was flat out wrong in what I thought, or maybe the laws changed and I didn't get the memo on how to behave at a four-way stop sign. Fortunately, my misunderstanding still kind of lined up with the compliance of the law, but as I understood it more, I wasn't entirely correct in what my understanding of it was. So today I want to achieve two things. I'm going to do my best to re-educate or educate, as the case may be, everybody on the four-way stop sign procedure. Okay, so I'm also going to try to tie that in. My second objective is I'm going to try to make a very loose parallel here to communication in doing that. All right, so first let me dive right into the four-way stop, and I'm going to explain it again, hopefully in a way that's coherent and useful, and then I'm going to make my very lame attempt to draw the metaphor between the four-way stop and communication. Okay, so first let me talk about kind of how things, in my opinion, go wrong at the four-way stop. All right, everybody kind of converges at once, and everybody sits and they look at one another and they're like, "You go, no, you go," and you guys know, like, type a 3 in the comments section down here if you've ever had one person directing traffic and then somebody else goes and there's a near miss or even a collision because you got people in the windshield that feel like that they're traffic cops. So if you've run into that, type of 3 down in the comments section. I ran into that just today. And it was pretty comical because two people were pointing to go and different people were watching different people, and what happened was somebody decided to go left when the person across from them was trying to go straight through, right? We almost had a head-on collision in the intersection. So I get why it's pretty confusing. Let me tell you what I thought it was, and I was wrong. And I got to tell you, I think that my way would work fantastically. But what I thought it was everybody gets to the intersection, and regardless, you get to a point and everybody goes in clockwise order, right? So the first would go, then the next to the left, and the next to the left, and the next to the left. And if everybody went one and one and one and one, you never had two moving cars that would run the risk of running into one another because there would only be one car engaged in the intersection at a time. I think, or I thought that's how I was taught, right? I was 16. That was a long time ago. So maybe it was right and it changed, or maybe I just remember it wrong. I don't know. Hey, speaking of, I may have folks that are popping in listening to this that don't have their driver's license at all. Type a 4 down in the comments section if you don't even have your driver's license yet. Or if it's been revoked or suspended because your driving's just that bad. That's okay too. Type a 4 down there for me. So look, these are kind of the rules as I understand them now after doing a little bit of research. And I say this, you're like, "Sean, why are you telling me this?" I'm telling you this because I want you to hit that share button down there. And guys, if you've never shared one of my lessons, one of my diatribes before, please share it today, because we cannot get this public service announcement out to enough people quickly enough. All right, everyone needs to know this rule, because I'm telling you, people, they ruin the law every day. And look, I'm guilty too, because again, while I was compliant, I was compliant for the wrong reasons, which put me at risk of creating an accident. So here's the deal. Simply put, if you've got two cars coming head on and they arrive at the same time, just like with any situation, the person that's going directly straight across has the right of way, and the car that needs to turn, let's say left, right, they have to yield to the car going straight across. All right? Pretty simple. Now, if a car shows up straight across and they're going right, it's a non-issue. One can go straight and one can go right at the same time. Or if they show up and they're both going straight, they can both go straight at the same time. Okay? That's pretty simple. But that's if two cars are there. Now, if you get into a three-car scenario, and this was the part where I was wrong, what it boils down to is the order that the cars arrive is the order that the cars then proceed. So let's say a south car heading northbound arrives first, and then the west car heading eastbound arrives second, and then the north car heading southbound arrives third. Well, in this case, the south car would go first, the west car would go second, and the north car would then go third because of the order of arrival. And that's all fine and good. But the problem is if you arrive and you don't know who arrived in which order, or if you're waiting in line and everything's kind of proceeding and the line is dwindling as people are going through the intersection, you don't know who got there first, and you're having to trust that the order of operations before you even got there was correct in the first place, so you're kind of going off of blind judgment, right? So when that happens, and when in doubt, you always want to give the car to your right. You want to give them the right of way to go before you, all right? And so that's kind of the way I thought it was. That goes back to that clockwise order of operation there, right? So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I did learn one other thing, and this should be obvious, is that if there are pedestrians at any piece of that intersection, that you always want to yield to them. If they're walking a crosswalk and you're turning right, you need to wait until they go. The other thing is as that pedestrian's walking across, if you creep up into the intersection, that's a no-no. You can be ticketed for that. They need to have cleared at least that first lane of traffic and be into the second lane before you proceed, right? So people get this wrong all the time. One, and that's the big reason for the post today, is they're not educated on it, or they're educated on it so long ago that they forgot the rules, or that they remembered it improperly and have been doing it improperly. I don't think that people are well-intended. However, there are just nasty, terrible drivers out there. I'm convinced of it. It's either that they don't care, or that their agenda or where they need to get is more important than everybody else, right? So what I want to kind of contrast there is that there is assertive drivers and there are passive drivers. There are assertive people in life, all right, and there's passive people in life. There's people that have learned to behave in a certain way, that they're aggressive and they're type A and they're dominant, that they get what they want. And then there's other people that tend to be type B, a little quieter, a little bit more passive, and sometimes don't always get what they want. And I think they're resigned to that. They're okay with it, right? Driving is no different, and you see those personality tendencies play out as people behave on the roads. Type a 5 down there, or better yet, type an amen if you know what I'm talking about and agree with that. Just give me an amen. Testify. Traffic church. So, all right. That's kind of the traffic deal, right? I'm a little fired up about it because I saw it multiple times today. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back and check myself before I wreck myself. No pun intended. And I'm gonna make sure that I'm interpreting the law properly. Thank you, Travis. I got an amen from the congregation out in Facebook land. Um, but again, I think it boils down to behaviorally kind of who we've become as people. I think our personalities play out on the road just like they do in life, okay? And this is where I want to start kind of making the tie-in with communication. You guys heard me talk a while back about being a servant leader and what that means to lead while serving, while putting others' needs ahead of your own, right? And that to me, that doesn't mean, again, and I think I spoke about this too, that you don't need to be a formal leader to be a servant leader. You can do that in your daily life. You can lead by that example. All right? I suck at it sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm pretty competitive. I think I've got a gene from one side of my family and not the other. And if any of my family's watching, the one on this side of the family knows what I'm talking about. We've got this need to be right all the time, which is why I came back and Googled. The other side of the family, I'm not saying you don't want to be right either. You're just not in people's face about it all the time. So I own that, right? I have to be very aware of that, and I got to watch out for it. We do have the cousins here. Thank you for piping in again from the congregation, and I think you guys know which side of the family I'm speaking of. So, look, that I own that, right? By recognizing it myself, and I try to work on that. But the point is, to be a servant leader, right? You've got to put people's needs above your own. In church one Sunday, our pastor was talking about kind of rising above and getting over it, right? If somebody's offending you is kind of how he put it on that Sunday. You get over it. You consider what maybe is going on in that person's life. So when I get to the four-way stop, am I judgmental about it? Yes, I am. Am I proud of that fact? No, I am not. I'm a little bit humbled that I was wrong the entire time anyway, right? So who in the heck am I to sit and judge? You know what they say, one finger pointing, three coming right back at you. But I think how you behave, how you handle a situation, what your mindset is are you naturally assertive or are you naturally passive? And in the driving world, they call it being a defensive driver versus being an offensive driver. And I thought about that. Defensive, offensive. Defensive, offensive. Right? So when you think about it, you know, the defensive drivers tend to be a bit more passive. They tend to sit back and wait. They tend not to be the ones that cause wrecks. They can, but they tend not to be. But the offensive drivers, or what I'll now say are offensive, right? The syllable's a little bit different, changes the word meaning a little bit, right? But the offensive drivers or offensive drivers can be a bit offensive, right? So as we think about then how we're viewed, we might just think that, hey, we're making decisions, we're being judgmental, and we're moving along our way, but we don't stop and think sometimes about how that's perceived by the other drivers out there that are perhaps being more defensive or being a bit more servant leader, putting the needs of others in front of their own. Hey, I'll wait. I'll let you jump out there and go out of turn because clearly where you need to be is more important than perhaps where I need to be, right? So when we think about that in communication, all right, I forget what number I'm on here. Type a 6 down here. If you've ever been in a meeting or you've ever been in any type of setting where there's a congregation of people that need to get points across, and there's one or those two people that commandeer the entire discussion, right? Nobody can get a word in edgewise. that one person, they know a little bit more than everybody else. And if they don't, if they talk loudly enough, or they lean forward just far enough, or if they do this, power gestures, right? Then the people that are a little bit less offensive, they tend to shut down. And so when you think about getting groups together and pulling the most out of a group, typically when you get a diverse group together from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different professions, different upbringings, whatever the case may be, and I mean diversity not in terms of race, religion, any of that. I mean truly diverse in terms of experiences. I think you're a better team, you're a better group, you have better information, better capability when you harness and leverage the collective goodness of that group. But if you've got that one or two people that are commandeering the whole discussion and everybody else is shutting down, let's say you've got 5 people in that group and one's taken over, you've now relegated the effectiveness and efficacy of your group to 20% of what the potential could be. Right? And I don't think that's anybody's intent. It's kind of like driving. I don't think anybody screams through a 4-way stop and says, hey, I'm going to create a head-on collision. It's not really how people's minds work. I think that they tend to just get a bit egocentric in their mindset. Or they've conditioned their behavior because they've behaved in an aggressive or offensive way for so many years that this is just naturally how they behave. Conversely, those that tend to be more passive or more defensive in how that they approach or engage, that has been a conditioned behavior for them. And they've kind of learned to, I'm not saying they're okay with it, I'm not saying they like the outcomes as a result of those behaviors, but they've resigned themselves to, well, that's just how it is, that's who I am, and that's, I just kind of deal with it. That neither, I'm telling you, is the right thing. And so you've got to strike balance. And when you're communicating and when you're engaging in a team and when you're trying to work together, again, it's kind of like the 4-way stop. Ultimately, for it to work, everybody has to kind of know the rules of engagement, and they need to know how to take their turns. Okay? Because the person that's passive or more defensive at the 4-way stop example, they can just as easily cause wrecks as the person that's being more aggressive. Type a 7 in that comment section if you think you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to wait. I'll wait you out until I see a 7 on there. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. And who is that person? Who's that passive person, and how are they causing the wreck? Right? We already know the aggressive person just zooms through the intersection, right? But the passive person causing the wreck is the one going, go, go. And they could be dead wrong. They could be giving it this number, go, 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 go. And they could be wrong about who they're giving instruction to go to. So the person, that is just as confused as they are is like, okay, he told me to go. So they go, boom, they get hit by a car that's actually following the law. All right? So what I'm saying is that in a communication situation, if you've got people that are passive and they're not putting themselves out there, that can be as detrimental to a group dynamic as the person that's the type A that's talking maybe too much and not sharing their time or not pulling information out of their colleagues or coworkers or parishioners or whatever that dynamic is, right? So for the more aggressive people, the more assertive people, the ones that are the more type A, there is a pretty good acronym. It's called WAIT. W-A-I-T. WAIT. And so it's a pretty good one, right? Because WAIT stands for what? Why am I talking? Why am I talking? So if you take the acronym at face value and you've got something to say and you're in a group setting, remember WAIT. Don't just speak. Wait. Why am I talking? What is it that I had to say? Am I adding value? Am I being constructive? Or perhaps am I just posturing? Perhaps I'm just saying stuff to sound like I know what the hell I'm talking about. Or perhaps I'm trying to say something to sound, knowledgeable or more knowledgeable, so that perhaps whoever's in the room that may or may not be evaluating me amongst my peers puts me in a higher light. Me, right? That is a me way to be if you're posturing and speaking for those reasons. Again, back to that servant leader model. If you're putting the needs of the group in front of yours, or you're aligning your needs with those of the group, you're going to do much better. So wait, why am I talking? All right? So then, know when it's your turn to speak. Don't perpetually be that passive type B person that doesn't speak. You are hurting the team by doing that. You might think, hey, I'm just being polite, I'm giving airtime. No. You're compromising the team because you're not getting your thoughts and opinions and your education and your wisdom out there for the group if you're holding it in. You're now allowing that one person, that's the 20%er that we talked about, to speak for the entire group. You've now compromised, in this example, right, 80% of the capability of your team. So don't be that person at the four-way stop that's just waiting, know the rules, know when to engage. At the four-way stop, know when it's your turn. Be confident, be prepared, be educated. It's the same thing in communication. Know when it's your turn to speak, and when it is your turn to speak, speak with purpose. Another small little mnemonic that I remember is called the 3 B's. And again, if you don't speak because you don't like to speak in front of groups, perfect. Then the 3 B's is for you. So 1, wait. Why am I talking? Okay, you thought through that and you're like, okay, I do have something value added to contribute. Know when it's your turn to speak. Okay, it's my turn to speak. And now the 3 B's. Be brief, be bright, and be done. Be brief, be bright, be done. There you have it. Okay? So, one other, and I'm not going to throw the statistic out, right? And I almost Googled it, but you guys all know, what do they say? 95% of all statistics are made up on the spot, right? So I'm no different right now. I don't know what the statistic is, but it is a drastic majority of people, when they're in a conversation or they're in a group setting like this, they're waiting and they're listening. But why? Most often, they're trying to think of what they're going to say next or what they're going to counter to what the person's telling them, rather than listening with the intent to seek to understand or to be empathetic to what's being told to them. Because that requires a bit of processing. It requires some time. A point's made, a statement's made, an emotion is shared. Digest, process, respond. Wait. Why am I talking? And look, guys, I'm probably the world's worst at this. I'm so ashamed to admit that I often cut people off because I've already got 5 thoughts in my head of what I want to say. People don't even get their complete thought out, and I'm already talking over the top of it. So who am I at that intersection? I'm that guy that pulls into the intersection, and maybe I don't even know what or care what order I arrived in, right? So again, wait. Why am I talking? Know when it's your turn. The 3 B's: be brief, be bright, be done. But more importantly, be a good listener. Seek to understand before you reply. And in my metaphor, know the law, understand the order, understand the scenario as you pull up before you make your decision. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. I don't have much more to speak about today. Again, it was a bit of a leap to pull the metaphor together, but again, I was dealing with the 4-way stop stuff today, so it was fresh on my mind. And then I started thinking about communication and group and team dynamics and how to get the most out of, speaking. And I thought that the give and take at a 4-way stop was really, really similar to the give and take of how we should communicate in group settings and in team settings. So, with that, again, if for no other reason, guys, please, sharing is caring. Hit the share button down here. I'd love to get this message out so that more people can understand the rules of the road for the 4-way stop. And look, I'm going to know. Big Brother's watching, because if I show up at a 4-way stop tomorrow and they jack it all up, I'll know you didn't share this. And there's probably some statistics that I could pay to get on Facebook of who didn't share it, and then I'll just be hurt. It'll be offensive. I'm just playing. But anyway, I hope that was somewhat educational on the 4-way stop piece. I know it was for me to stop and go and Google it and watch it online. Realize that I was wrong for the last 15 years. But again, also in terms of the communication piece, think about, at least I hope that you think about and learn something that way, with weight, with knowing when it's your turn to speak, and the 3 B's, so that when we go out and we engage, be it in a public speaking situation, whether you're talking to your teams, whether you have direct reports, or whether you're on a team with particularly peers, try to be thoughtful of that stuff. Shout out for my folks at the Folds of Honor. Hashtag Folds of Honor. Appreciate it. Everybody else, please have a great rest of your evening. And I hope that tomorrow you tune in for Fireside Chat. You guys have a great evening.